Okay. Well, hello and welcome to the Global Impact Virtual Conference hosted by ISD Community Leaders. My name is Martha Bongiorno and I am an Innovation Specialist from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm joined by Megan Ford and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hey everyone, I'm Megan Ford and I am a school librarian. Martha and I are yes, libraries rule. Martha and I are in the Atlanta, Georgia area. So today we're going to be talking about collaborating for sustainability, how libraries support the SDGs. So we really want to emphasize how libraries can serve as community hubs, how we can empower others to implement sustainable practices and work with people throughout our school and community to really get people on board with making a difference for our future.
I love how you described that, Megan. So
Thanks.
I'm excited to join with Megan today and to bring light to this very important topic and how school libraries, when we support every student in the building, can support the SDGs and sustainability as well. So this is just our title slide, and then we have just our information here, just in case you ever want to reach out to either one of us. We are open books. And we love to connect and love to plan with others and share resources. We do not gatekeep around here. We believe that we are better together. So again, you can reach out to Megan here at MS Ford Fierce, or you can reach out to me on any social media platform at Mrs. Bongiorno EDU.
We love messages. Please send us messages.
We love it. We love connecting with others for sure. We also have curated a lot of resources over our time in our own library spaces and when we're collaborating with each other and collaborating with others. So if you'd like access to all those resources, it is a Padlet. It's bit.ly/library SDGs. Feel free to use any of those materials on there because, again, we are better together. So just setting the stage to engage today, making sure that we are on the same page about the SDGs and what those are. The Sustainable Development Goals by the United Nations were a set of 17 different goals to reach by 2030. They cover a wide range of issues, including ending poverty and hunger, improving health and well-being, and things like that. A lot of us know climate action and sustainability is the main focus of the SDGs because we hear it so much in the news, online, in conversations and teaching practices. Sustainability seems to be like the go-to conversation, but we are actually going to talk more openly about other areas of the SDGs like no poverty and gender roles throughout our presentation. So we are mainly talking about sustainability, and we'll tie that in just a second. But we've broken this down into 4 different areas and they build on one another. I don't think any one of us would expect any of us to be doing all of these at the exact same time, but they are better when they are working together. When we're talking about education and awareness, when we are actively programming with collaboration among teachers and students and partnerships out in our community, and bringing in those outside experts and resources. When all of this works together, it's beautiful, but don't feel like you have to tackle all of this all at once, right? Take little pieces and try them out here and there, and then reflect and keep improving year to year. Anything to add, Megan?
No, I think that's perfect. And I would just say that that community involvement piece can fit into, yeah, like you said, they all go hand in hand. So that community involvement piece or that partnership piece, those fit into all of these. And, you've said this, our libraries are the biggest school in the building. We are the heart of the school. And so this is another opportunity for us to also advocate for our role in the building and work with so many different groups.
So we're actually going to start off with education and awareness because Megan and I, when we were talking about this, this is the easiest way to implement the SDGs into our library spaces. You know, like Megan said, we are the heart of the school and we have so much access to knowledge, databases, experts, teacher collaboration, all of these things where we can infuse that education and awareness piece into what we do. But just talking about where to start is always kind of difficult. And so Megan has done asset mapping with her students and within her building. So I'll let her speak to that.
So asset mapping is kind of like, we think about like a pretest. It is a great place to talk about collecting data on where to start, especially if you bring this into design thinking or project-based learning. This is from Climate Action Schools, which we're just going to talk about here a little bit later. Yes, one of my favorite organizations, Take Action Global, is part of this. And it's a great opportunity for your students to go out and get involved in your school, talk to teachers, talk to custodians, talk to administrators about what you're already doing throughout the school to take action for sustainability. What type of lunch food choices are available? You talks about transportation. What kind of energy does your school use? And really gets the conversation started. If you've got a library advisory, this is a great place to bring that in and talk about what do we need and what do we already have in place.
Yeah, I love that this brings a language to our students too, because oftentimes, if this is their first experience with really thinking about the impact that they can have in their buildings and in their communities, they may not know where to start. And it can feel very overwhelming for both students and teachers getting involved. So having a checklist like this or a yes or no question really helps them kind of break down those ideas into manageable pieces for them,
Yeah,
so
for
that they
sure.
can start that planning process. So thanks for sharing that, Megan. So this is something that's near and dear to our hearts as school librarians, and I know we keep mentioning that, but I find so much value in our school libraries because when we're talking about understanding students and meeting them where they're at. It's really hard for them to think outside of themselves and feel like they can make a difference in their community if their personal needs are not being met, right? Like we've had a lot of conversations in teaching recently over the past couple years, honestly, in terms of Maslow's hierarchy, like how are our students' needs being met before they can reach any level on that higher end of being able to participate or engage or create? And that includes making a difference in their community. It's really hard to do that. So school libraries are in a perfect position in order to help with pieces like no poverty. So what does that mean? And what does that look like? It could be something as simple as equitable access to books, literacy initiatives, something to help them think outside of their personal selves, but also see themselves in the materials that they're reading. So free access to books and other educational resources. So this is my little hill that I will die on whether or not we're still charging fines or fees for students in terms of access for the materials that they have coming from the library. And that includes makerspace items and 3D printing and things like that. How are we democratizing creation and knowledge seeking activities in our libraries? So just keeping that in mind. But also, how are we going above and beyond with that? So in terms of no poverty, it's not just free access to books, but free access to materials. So now we start seeing over the past maybe a year or two, where libraries are going full in on checkout systems for not only makerspace materials, but like tools that they can use to like fix up their house or like whatever that might look like. It could be something like offering resources on nutrition and gardening, like this example from um, our dear friend Deb, and she has Band-Aids and snacks and just school supplies available for her students free of charge. And those come from community donations. So just thinking little things here and there, how can we offset SDG number one, no poverty? There's a reason it's number one, because once we get that covered, we can focus on other areas for our students, including reduced inequalities. And that means when we're offering free access to books, we're offering free access to ideas and perspectives, including those that are different or similar to our own. Offering resources on social justice and equity and inclusion, and making sure that students are able to have those windows and mirrors and sliding glass door moments. But it also could mean hosting events or educational programs that promote awareness of inequality issues and promote understanding and empathy.
And I really think you make a good point here when you talk about the importance of social justice and equity and inclusion, because that plays into sustainability too. We see huge inequities around the world on sustainable practices. We were just talking about with one of our students environmental racism, where there's this systematic racism that exists when we talk about like pollution dumping because the land is cheap. And so this is a great way to really bring in with kids that maybe haven't seen it as much, that equity play piece, and like you said, that mirror and windows where they can really get a glimpse at a life that might be a little bit different than their own, and understand where others are coming from.
I think we could have a whole session on that
Yeah.
just in general, in terms of like oil drilling and where pollution is being dumped and the rivers that are being, contaminated and things like that. And they often tend to be in areas of marginalized communities or poverty-stricken communities and things like that. So I think when you look at this holistically, like what you're talking about, all of this plays into one another and brings those
Right.
deeper level conversations into the classroom and into the library. And then also just keeping in mind good health and well-being. Yes, that is, normal health, like access to health care. We're talking about human productive rights, things like that. We're talking about access to, vaccines and flu shots and equitable healthcare and things like that. But it's also mental health awareness. And I think that also, if we're talking about reduced inequalities, ties in with that mental health piece. And so Megan and I have talked about different things to promote mental well-being, and just some tidbits to throw out there. Partnering with your counseling department in your school buildings makes life so much easier, and it brings this phenomenal collaborative approach to mental health within the library space. For example, in our district, during Suicide Awareness Month, our counseling department was sending out stickers that got you into contact with different resources about suicide awareness and things like that. So we actually started tagging any book in our library that had mentions of suicide awareness on the front covers, so that they would have access to those materials. And then that kind of took a life of its own, and our student library board ended up tagging other books that talked about more mental health topics that weren't just suicide awareness. So I think that's a really great way to collaborate with your counseling department, but also your students. We have de-stress stations. Something as simple as a coloring station can do a lot for students, especially during testing anxiety periods. And then bike to read programs. I just urge you to go Google these. They're amazing. We had 2 exercise bikes in our middle school library, and they would bike and compete over who could bike and read the most. And we had how many miles per pages we read and things like that. And it was just a really great way for students to kind of exercise and all of that, which supports that good health and well-being, not only physically, but mentally as well. Any other little tidbits you'd like to add here, Megan? I know
There's
that this is like a heavy topic that we could talk about at
Yeah,
length.
and this is something you and I are so passionate about as well. I would say that this is also a great opportunity. I know a lot of libraries partner with either animal foster organizations or rescue dog organizations, or we have a huge system of service dogs here in Georgia, to bring in animals to support well-being. It makes the kids so happy. Oh,
Yeah. The Read to Puppy programs, therapy
oh,
dogs,
so
all that
cute.
kind of stuff. Yeah. So, going along that line, another thing that you could do with your counseling department is collaborating on book clubs. So
Hmm.
we've done several book clubs with students, but also with parents to help bring in
Yep.
those conversations. So The Power of Being an Introvert, we've read something like that and then had those open conversations about just because our students aren't extroverted doesn't mean that something's wrong. We just all kind of think and operate a little bit differently. So those book clubs can make a huge difference, not only with your students, but with parents' perspectives as well.
I really love that you talk about partnering with parents, because that's such a vital part of our education system that we don't always talk about when we talk about collaboration. So that's so important.
Oh, thanks for that, Megan. So going alongside education and awareness, and this will come back later in our presentation as this program kind of expanded in my space, but a lot of school libraries now are doing indoor gardening, and it really started off as more education and awareness than anything. We talked about the benefits of indoor gardening with our students in terms of like better air quality. It helps with mental health awareness. There's just something about being in a green space that helps relax our nervous system. There's a lot out there that could be talked about in terms of more plants and the ability to relax and decompress. And we want our spaces to feel safe for students. And that's just a natural way to do that. But as this program kind of took on, it took on even more in terms of where our students wanted to see it grow and have that conversation around practicing sustainability and this idea of food deserts and how can we use this indoor gardening piece to like make salads and things like that for the school and like all these conversations. So it's little things like this that you could implement tomorrow if you were able to, just using water and air plants or whatever. And it kind of takes on a life of its own. It was really cool to see this grow over the years that we had it. All right, this moves into our bread and butter for today, Megan.
Yes.
And that
Yes.
is collaboration and partnerships, right? And that's really why we're here and where all of this joy and a lot of deep work can come from.
Um, so I want to talk about a program that I'm super passionate about, which is Climate Action Project, which leads into climate action schools. I know, I love it. This is a great opportunity, especially if you're in the K-8 space, to really start getting your students involved. It is a 6-week project. There is a starting point and a celebration for that. And at the end, there's a huge webinar celebration that brings in tons and tons of speakers. I know last year they had Malala's dad on there. Like, how cool is that? They let students talk about their project. So it's 100% student led. It's design thinking. And so you are really asking the students, what can you do to make a difference for your environment? It is a partnership with Take Action Global, but it is a completely worldwide program. And they have all the resources free for you to do it. So they've got lesson plans in there. For high school, we had to kind of build our own project. Our project this year really got 4 different clubs in our school involved. So we have over 200 students collaborating, and we're building a green wall that it's all out of recycled materials. And we have our talented and gifted kids, our student technology team, our robotics team. Everybody is involved in this process. And so it's been really neat to see their impact and start to see it come to fruition.
I love that you were underplaying this a little bit. Like everything that you were doing with your students is all upcycled materials, and
Yeah.
it is showing that no matter what you have access to, that you could do this too. And I
Yeah.
absolutely love that. And I love that with a student run program like this, it catches on so much more than you leading something, because it is something that students are passionate about and you tap into that. And that's where the magic happens. That's where the passion comes in and the real difference starts happening. So I love your program, Megan. So y'all go
It's so
follow her
fun.
at Miss Ford Fierce because she posts about it and I love the updates. So kind of going alongside that, our library, we were at a high school library, and I mentioned we started this indoor gardening thing, and our students started a seed library. And this was a student-led initiative from our student library board as well. We have a biotechnology class where they are in charge of our beehives. They literally put little robotic trackers on bees to see what plants they're gravitating towards, like so much stuff that it's way beyond my understanding of what they're doing, but they are making a huge difference in our local community, alongside our DNA club and our beaks or beekeeping club. And so in collaboration between our student library board on how we can support them and their initiatives that they're trying to do, they started a little baby seed library. And it wasn't huge, it wasn't massive. It was something that we could take and start that conversation with and to support this larger initiative from these other clubs. So the seed library started with some donations from our local hardware store, so whether you have an Ace or a Home Depot or a Lowe's, or even like, oh my gosh, what's that other plant store? Hikes or something like that in your local community, or even Megan's sister is in charge of a plant store, whoever you can reach out to get these seeds in the first place. It encouraged the preservation of local and heirloom seed varieties. So yes, we started off with packaged seeds because that was easier for us. But if you can see down here, we have extra bags for seeds and like a little form for them to fill out, that as they produced more seeds from their plants, they brought back these heirloom seeds so that we could keep this going. And we really tried to focus on local pollinators for the bees in our local communities. So the types of things that we had eventually fed into our bees and how we can support them in that. So there's a link here if you'd like to see more about our seed library. But our beekeeper club eventually made honey from the bees because our pollinator plants grew, and it was such a wonderful initiative, which ties into this was more active programming on our part, but it really was under collaboration and partnerships. But I think this is what Megan was saying at the beginning, where so much of this kind of overlaps and grows as time goes along, because students start to feel more confident and see the impact that they're making. So one of the ways that we do that is making with purpose in our library.
Yeah, so this was an Earth Day program Martha and I collaborated on building out last year. And this is such an easy way to bring active making that talks about sustainability into your libraries. One of the things that Martha and I do quite a bit is use recycled materials to repurpose. So how can we take, a baby food jar that we had tons of teachers donate, and how can we turn that into something else? Or how can we take water bottles and build, hummingbird feeders? And this is really great too when we talk about equitable access for our schools that don't always have the budget that other schools have to truly make a difference. And, we can show the kids how we can support nature as well. Another
Mhm.
thing that Martha got me into is biomaking. So we did something really simple here that Martha can kind of talk about, how detailed this can get, which is we made plastic out of cornstarch, oil, and water. And it was a really cool way for the kids to start talking about how trash breaks down and if it breaks down. We were able to microwave it, turn it into plastic, put it back into water, and watch it break down and kind of talk about, why don't we use plastics that break down much easier?
I love that conversation. And honestly, one day you and I are going to do a whole biomaking session
Yes,
and
we
create
are.
leather with people. But there's so much that you can do. And I want to urge y'all, if you have not read Invent to Learn, the author of Invent to Learn does a lot with biomaking and how to use different bacteria and things like that to grow leather and different sustainable clothing pieces and stuff like that. So just keeping all that in mind, that there's tons online if you want to go search for this stuff, or go back to our Padlet because we have a lot of things linked there too. But also you're going to see in pictures that we have, paper plates and plastic and all this kind of stuff. We do not throw that stuff out. Eventually, this
Yeah.
stuff is going to be refilled, or we use the same bowl like a million times that by the end of the year, it's falling apart. But I think it's so important for our students to see that thinking is messy, things get messy, and you don't have to throw everything away the first time that you use it. Like, this is stuff to keep in mind. Like, how can we reuse materials over and over and over again?
We
Which
love
also goes,
making, go ahead.
I was going to say, this also ties back into no poverty, because when you're keeping track of a budget and creating and making in a space like this, I would rather keep my fines low to zero. And so that I can keep doing things like this, right? So keeping
Yep.
all of that as low budget as possible and making a difference is like, that's where we want to be, right? So a lot of what we're talking about, we're here talking to you, but a lot of what we do is student led. This is a student comes up to us in the library and says, "Hey, I'm really passionate about this. Have you thought about doing something like this?" Or we're like, "Hey, what changes do you want to see in our space?" And all of these conversations end up happening, and it takes a minute or two, but eventually these programs come to light. So I love this program that you did, Meggan, with this seed initiative that you
Yes.
guys did last Earth Day.
Yeah, so we're actually doing this again this year, and it's a great way to like kind of work in recycling and, ethical planting practices. And it's always amazing to me how many of our kids just don't realize where our food comes from. Uh, they don't know, which I'm sure is very true for many schools in suburban and urban areas. So we actually recycled over 300 egg cartons and planted seeds. And Martha was talking about my sister owns a plant truck. This is a chance for you to collaborate with a master gardener program in your area. So my sister actually worked with her. She's part of it in Indianapolis and shipped over 40 kinds of seeds to us this year.
Oh my
All
gosh.
all free and reused, like from people's plants in their area. So I'm excited to see what we got. But yeah, we planted over 500 plants and then gave them out to different kids in the school. And students who planted their own egg carton got to take it home and plant it in their yard. So we're excited to do this again.
Oh, I love that so much. Which kind of brings in this whole idea of indoor gardening back to the conversation, that this eventually, I moved on to another position. So our goal was to create a whole indoor gardening system. We had already bought all the materials to do this, to grow indoor tomatoes and have it self-water, and basil and lettuce and a couple other things that we could really start doing inside of our building for more healthy eating practices and things like that. But it also talks about alternatives to food production and packaging, which I think Meggan just talked about. So when we're talking about sustainability, it's so easy to fall into reduce, reuse, recycle. We want to make sure that we're doing that, but we don't put the language around what does that look like beyond our earlier grades, where we're making that cute little symbol of reduce, reuse, recycle. And this is stuff that I've had to teach myself as we're doing this, because I did not grow up this way. I mean, especially being from a very low income family growing up, that a lot of that is not sustainable. You buy one-time packaging of stuff, you throw it out, lots of plastic and things like that. And so I really had to learn alternatives growing up. But one piece about the hydroponic system that, again, is on our Padlet, it minimizes water usage compared to soil-based because of the absorption and things like that. So it's really something to consider, and it helps if you have a really awesome group of kids that can learn how to self-water and, have that filtration system kind of set up. But all that to say, indoor gardening can take a life on its own, like Meggan was saying, and things like that. We have talked about this, but in terms of active programming, instead of going beyond that education and awareness piece, which to me could be something as simple as having a library display out with just books accessible to students, how can we take that and make it more active and intentional? And part of that is the intentionality behind what books we're using in our library. So doing a diversity audit could be a really key player in that. Hosting events and workshops to raise awareness on different gender issues and promoting equality, bringing in those community experts, those parents that would want to volunteer, business partners, all these people that you can tap, whether it's virtual or in person. Those events could be life-changing for the students that are involved in this. But also supporting initiatives to reduce gender-based violence and promote equal equalities for all genders. So one of the things that I did, living in the South, this can be a very tough topic, and I don't want to like skate over that, but it is very true, and it's a very real thing that we live on a daily basis in certain communities. We see it played out on the news a lot lately. But working alongside student-led groups like GSA helps us a lot in terms of being able to promote workshops and being able to support a lot of different students and perspectives in our spaces. So that student-led piece is also unbelievably crucial when it comes to areas like this as well. And then always include a variety of representation, no matter what time of year it is. So I just wanted to point that out just a little bit. That is all year, not just certain months that we celebrate. But kind of going along with the idea of events and workshops and stuff that Meggan and I have tried to do. Something as simple as a book club. So we've done Dry by Neil Shusterman. It was an amazing dystopian, I guess you would call it, novel
I would say
about climate
dystopian.
action. Yeah. And that was an amazing read. And there's a lot of materials online that you can gather for these book club discussions. And then also Nature of Witches, which is a fantasy read by Rachel Griffin. It's been on a lot of different award lists and things like that if you need some documentation on that. But that was an excellent book club suggestion as well. We've done sustainable crafts and art exhibits. So when we do stuff together, like Making with Purpose, we put that on display, or we put up a descriptor for other people to see each other's work. Sustainable living talks is something that I initiated right before I moved out of my last position, where we had local experts come in, and we talked about beekeeping and bat houses and renewable energy, waste reduction, ethical clothing practices. So Meggan did something with her cosplay
Mhm.
connections there and talking about ethical cosplay creation and things like that. I will say, Meggan and I live in an urban, suburban area, and so it's easier for us to tap these people living close to Atlanta. But feel free to reach out to larger organizations like Dragon Con or people that you can tap into to see if they could at least do like a virtual 30-minute lunch and learn for your students.
I would say,
Most people,
yeah,
sorry, go
sorry, go
ahead.
ahead.
No, it's okay. Go for
I
it.
was gonna say, I would say this is a great opportunity to reach out to local nature preserves because most of them have experts in different fields that do a lot of education talks. Um, and reach out if you're in a rural area, reach out to your farm bureau and see what farmers are using these practices because a lot of small farmers are putting up bat houses, are doing beekeeping as well. And so they're experts that you can bring in if you're in a more rural area.
I love that. And then something that's kind of taken the library world by storm has been story walks, especially post-pandemic. That was a really great way for our students to get outside in safe ways. But maybe organize a cleanup event around your story walk, or consider the stories that you're including in the story walk as sustainable readings or read alouds that you could do. So something to keep in mind. And then we're going to end on our favorite, which is community involvement. And Meggan um, touched on something with our local nature center. So I'm going to move past this one
Mhm.
slide, Meggan, and get into what we
Yep.
did for Global Maker Day with the Chattahoochee Nature Center. Do you want to touch a little more on that?
Yeah, so this was actually a county-wide event. So we have 90,000 students in our county. Yes, that Martha and I organized. And we were able to kick off our day. This was all virtual. We were able to kick off our day with a virtual visit from our Chattahoochee Nature Center education group. And it was, y'all, it was so fantastic. It was a really great opportunity to hear about the difference we can all just make in our own backyards. And they even had rescue animals, which I was totally into, which is a great way if you get to, see an animal who's been impacted somehow by human involvement. It's really powerful to see, to talk about like what changes do I need to make. It was also a great way to tie in literacy here because we tied in children's books that went along with the SDGs. And on that Padlet, there's a whole list from Take Action Global of different books that go along with those. And Martha and her students did an awesome upcycled Maker Day activity where they made instruments and showed all the elementary school kids how to do that. And I just thought this was a great way for us to involve so many different classrooms and empower so many of our students.
I love that. And then one other resource that you would want to look at for if you wanted to start something like this, or even like a little book club with your students, is the book list around the
Yes.
SDGs. So if you just Google SDGs book list, this children's book list will pop up for you at the very top. And it's also linked on our Padlet if you wanted to go there. But they have, I don't know, Meggan, like 20 different picture book read alouds that you can do with your students that either your
Mhm.
older students could read aloud to your younger ones and do something like this, or you as a teacher or school librarian can do. So
Yeah.
yeah, so making with purpose and fuse it. And if nothing's happening in your district, don't be scared to do something yourself and just take it on because who knows what could happen from it. And then, oh, y'all, this is one of my
Oh,
favorite programs that we have ever done. And it was Build the Change with Lego and Take Action. And this is our student library board just going all in and something that we worked with our lower elementary school that was right across from us. It was within walking distance that we could walk over there and do this with. But if you are curious about Build the Change, they do monthly challenges with your students, with Legos that tie into sustainability in some way that will make a difference in your community. Every challenge is different. Our students had the privilege of helping create some of these lessons. And they have institutes that you can sign up, these cohorts for elementary and middle school teachers. It's not for high school teachers, sorry, y'all, but for elementary and middle, it's perfect. And you can sign up at bit.ly/tag BTC Institutes. And I think at this time, Jennifer Williams announced a new cohort, but I'm not sure what the new date was. So I apologize if this is outside of that date, but look into it because they announce new cohorts
Yeah, I would
throughout
say
the
it's
year.
every couple of months they announce a new cohort. So lots and
Yeah.
lots and lots of opportunities.
But it's also really great because they tie in design thinking into this. So if
Mhm.
you're looking on how to infuse like authentic PBL or design thinking experiences for your students that engage them and get them hands-on and creating and things like this is perfect. So Megan and I are virtual, so we're not going to do this with you, but we wanted to leave you with a really cool slide that you could use in your own space. And we do upcycling maker projects. Sometimes this is just a passive program that we put out. We'll put out recycled materials for students and just ask them to create something, design something that brings them joy. It could be any material that you have on hand, like the Amazon boxes that may be delivered, newspapers, scrap metal, scrap wood. Megan and I both have maker spaces. We have scrap fabric, like little
Yeah.
strips of things like all the time. And so we just keep all those things together and then we finally have enough stuff and we put it out and we're like, hey, design something. And the stuff comes back and it's always so cool what they create. And then we do a little baby art show with their maker projects and all that kind of stuff. So it's exciting. And then Megan over here with her design skills created a trading card if you'd like to initiate something in your space on reflecting on how you can implement the SDGs in your space. bit.ly/FETC SDG24 is the short link for that. And you can create your own little trading card and print them out. And considering what kind of what SDG do you want to focus on? What's your superpower? Megan, what's yours?
I'm a native planter. I was
I love
so
that.
proud when my niece was over here going, "How do you have so many bees?" And I was like, "Oh, it's all the flowers."
It's all the flowers. Oh my gosh, one thing we forgot to mention, and I know that we're probably at time or overtime, but there was an organization that you can order trees from that you did.
Oh, I
What was
just did
that?
it through my forestry department. Most states' forestry department will donate a tree for Arbor Day to plant, or you can order them. You just have to order them in like June for December. So you have to order them. You have to kind of plan ahead for that. But yeah, most forestry departments don't, and they're all native. So it's a great opportunity to plant some trees.
Oh, I love that. Okay, we're going to end on this really cool project that our kids made. They made their own bat house and then
So cool.
described all the ways that they collaborated with their community on creating these bat houses and things like that. So that was just, I love all the ways that everything tied together with this one project. I'd love to talk to y'all more about how we made it happen, but let me tell you now, the key is collaboration and
Yes.
just, reaching out to that one teacher or that, CTAE teacher or that community partnership, whatever. If you find that one person or one area that will work with you and help support your students, hold on to those people and really plan it out well um and the difference that you can make is phenomenal. So with that, I'm Martha Bongiorno and this is Megan
Hi, y'all.
Ford. We want to thank you again for watching this session as part of the Global Impact Virtual Conference hosted by ISTE community leaders. Please watch the other sessions, including those pre-recorded and those offered live. You can join in the conversation throughout the conference on ISTE Connect and on social media using hashtag ISTE Global and hashtag ISTE Community. Thank you all for joining us. And Megan, you've been a fabulous co-host with me. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for joining me, Martha. I can't wait to see all the other sessions. I know they're just going to be so inspirational.
It's going to be phenomenal. All right, y'all. Thank you so much and have a good conference.
Bye, everybody.